The morning started off quiet, too quiet for a Saturday in our new neighborhood. The sun had barely risen and golden light spilled across the half-built homes lining the street. My wife Sarah handed me a cup of coffee and smiled, her hair still messy from sleep. We had worked hard to get here. After 20 years of service in the Army, we'd finally saved enough to build a home of our own, one designed for veterans like me, with wider doorways, a therapy room, and easy access for the guys from my support group. Everything about this place was meant to heal, to bring peace, but that morning peace was the last thing we got. I heard her before I saw her, the sharp voice of a woman echoing across the cul-de-sac. Excuse me, she barked. I looked up from the porch steps where I'd been screwing in a wooden railing. A tall woman in a sun hat and floral blouse marched toward me, holding a clipboard like it was a weapon. You can't be making that much noise this early, she snapped, her tone dripping with authority. This is a residential area, not a construction site. I blinked, confused. Our permits were clear, and it was already past 8. The workers weren't even here yet. Just me and the sound of a screwdriver. Ma'am, I'm just working on my porch, I said, standing up slowly. My back ached from the old injury that never quite healed. Everything's within the HOA regulations. She crossed her arms tightly. Well, I'm on the HOA board, and I don't recall approving any veteran housing construction on this street, she said proudly, chin lifted like she was about to give orders in a parade. I swallowed hard. Veteran housing. What did she think this was? It's not public housing. I replied calmly, it's our home. I served in. I don't care where you served. She interrupted sharply. Rules are rules. You're disturbing the peace, and I'll have to file a complaint. For a moment all I could hear was the wind whistling through the unfinished fence. I looked past her to see a few neighbors peeking through their curtains. Some whispered behind their hands, others just stared. That's when I realized this woman wasn't just complaining about noise. She didn't want us here. I could feel it in the way her eyes swept over me, my faded army t-shirt, the war, now boots caked with dust. I took a slow breath. You said you're on the HOA board? I asked. She nodded firmly. Then maybe you can check your records again. We filed every document months ago. She smirked. I don't need to check. I know who lives here, and people like you don't usually follow procedure. The way she said people like you made my stomach twist. Sarah stepped out onto the porch, sensing the tension. Is there a problem, sir? She asked, trying to keep her voice steady. The woman's eyes flicked towards Sarah, then back at me. Yes, the problem is your husband's construction is violating noise rules. I'm documenting this for the HOA. I clenched my jaw, my fingers tightening around the screwdriver. The calm in my voice took effort. You're free to document whatever you like, ma'am, but please step off my property. She glared at me, then turned sharply on her heel, muttering something about troublemakers and military types. As she walked away, the neighborhood seemed to exhale again. Sarah put her hand on my arm. Don't let her get to you, she whispered, but deep down I knew this wasn't over. I'd seen that look before, and places far from home. It wasn't just about rules, it was about control. And people like her didn't stop with one complaint. By Monday morning, I understood just how far she was willing to go. When I opened the mailbox, there was a bright yellow notice stamped with HOA violation noise disturbance. My stomach dropped. I hadn't even turned on a power tool since Saturday. I walked straight to the HOA office, determined to clear this up. Inside, the air smelled like cheap perfume and printer ink. Behind the counter sat the same woman. Her nameplate read Karen D., HOA chairperson. Well, look who decided to show up, she said with a tight smile. I was wondering when you'd come to explain yourself. I held the paper up. There must be a mistake. You said we were breaking rules, but the construction was within hours and properly permitted. Her smile didn't falter. Oh, there's no mistake. I had multiple noise complaints filed against you. I frowned. By who? She leaned back, tapping her pen against the desk. Anonymous residents, but I assure you, their statements were consistent. You've been operating heavy machinery outside the allowed time frame. I almost laughed. You mean my cordless drill? Her expression hardened. Sarcasm won't help your case. You veterans think the rules don't apply to you because of your service background. That word, you veterans, hit like a punch. I leaned forward, voice low. I gave 20 years to this country, ma'am. I know rules better than most. Her lips pressed into a thin line. Then you should understand compliance. I'll be forwarding this notice to the city's building department. Something in me snapped. You can't do that, I said, raising my voice. We followed every legal requirement. Her face flushed. Don't you dare yell at me. This is harassment. She stood up as if to make a scene. I glanced around. The receptionist was watching. A man in a maintenance uniform poked his head from the back office. I took a deep breath and stepped back. I'm not here to fight, I said quietly. I'm here to clear up false claims. She smirked. Then prove it. Bring me the permits, the inspection approvals, and maybe I'll consider rescinding the violation. I nodded slowly. You'll have them by this afternoon. As I turned to leave, she muttered under her breath. These people think they can build anything anywhere. Back home, I gathered every file. Permits, inspection reports, even the emails from the local council. Sarah helped me organize them neatly. She's targeting you, she said, frustration in her eyes. What if we talk to the other HOA members? But when I reached out, I found out the truth. Karen was the HOA. She'd somehow consolidated control over the board when the neighborhood was still under development. She was judge, jury, and enforcer. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat on the porch, listening to the faint hum of streetlights. Every creak, every rustle felt heavier. I remembered the sound of distant generators overseas, the same restless hum before trouble. Sarah joined me with a blanket. We'll get through this, she said softly. I nodded, though my chest felt tight. At sunrise, I saw her again. Karen standing at the edge of our property, snapping photos with her phone. Hey, I called out. What do you think you're doing? She turned with a smug grin. Just collecting evidence for the board. My hands curled into fists. You're trespassing. Oh, don't be dramatic, she said. Public view perfectly legal. I didn't respond. Instead, I walked back inside, my mind already working. She wanted a war, fine. But this time, she was picking a fight with someone who didn't back down easily. 2 days later, I invited a few of my old army buddies over. We'd planned a small barbecue to celebrate finishing the interior work. Nothing wild, just family, a few friends, laughter. The smell of grilled meat filled the air, mixing with the sound of soft country music. For the first time in weeks, I felt normal again. But of course, Karen showed up right on cue. She stormed across the lawn, phone in hand, eyes wide with fury. Unbelievable, you're doing this again, she shouted. The music stopped, everyone turned. This is a noise violation and a disturbance of the neighborhood's peace. My buddy Jake, a retired Marine, stepped forward. Ma'am, it's 4 in the afternoon, he said calmly. We're just having a cookout. She glared at him. Don't talk back to me. I'm calling the police. I sighed. Go ahead. I said, meeting her stare. Let's clear this up once and for all. She dialed quickly, muttering about disorderly conduct and unauthorized gatherings. Within minutes, 2 patrol cars pulled up. The officers stepped out, scanning the scene. Ma'am, what's the issue? One asked. Karen pointed dramatically. Them, they're building illegally and holding loud parties without HOA approval. The officer looked confused. Parties? He turned to me. Sir, can you explain? I handed him the permits and HOA correspondence I'd kept ready for this moment. Everything's documented. We're veterans. This home was built under a community restoration program. The officer flipped through the papers, nodding slowly. Then he looked at Karen. Ma'am, this is legitimate. They've got all the required clearances. Her face went red. That can't be. I'm the HOA chair, actually. The officer interrupted. You're not listed as an active HOA representative anymore. The city's records show the association was dissolved last month pending re-election. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. A few neighbors, drawn by the noise, began to gather nearby. Some whispered, others shook their heads. One woman even called out, Karen, just let it go already. Karen's face twisted with disbelief. You don't understand, she said, voice shaking. They're changing the neighborhood. The officer crossed his arms. Ma'am, I think you need to leave these folks alone. As she backed away, I could almost see the realization hitting her. She wasn't in control anymore. The crowd murmured quietly as she retreated down the street. Jake clapped a hand on my shoulder. You handled that like a soldier, he said. I smiled faintly, though part of me still felt heavy. Just glad it's finally over, I murmured. Later that evening, as the sun dipped below the rooftops, the neighborhood felt different. Lighter somehow. The kids played on their bikes again. The neighbors waved when they passed. Sarah leaned her head against my shoulder. You know, she whispered, maybe this home really is a healing place. I looked out at the flag waving gently in the front yard, the stars catching the last light. For the first time in a long while, peace didn't feel temporary. It felt earned.